So never badmouth your company, your colleagues, or the company culture, your manager. It's a big no, because the interviewer feels that you can do that about your previous company, you could do that about them also someday. Hi guys, I hope you all are doing great. So today I'm going to talk about some key mistakes people make during interviews, and this is something which can be completely avoided. As you know, when we go for an interview, all of us want to give it our best shot. That's how it should be. But some key mistakes sometimes can ruin the interview experience also for us as in the candidate, and also for the company, which is the interviewer. So I'm going to talk about a couple of mistakes people make, and this is also basically from my experience, where I have interviewed a lot of people at the senior level and at the entry level. I thought I could share this with you all, and this might help you avoid some key mistakes, so that you have a much better interview experience. Before I start, I want to add that when you go for an interview, it's not just about you getting selected for the job, it's also leaving a good impression on the interviewer, because it's very important how things are going to be for you later. You never know, you might cross paths with them in the future. The interviewer might be your manager in another company, or you might just bump into him somewhere. So it's always good to leave on a good note. Even if you don't get through the interview, it's always good to be cordial. Have a good relationship. At least ensure that it's not negative, if not anything. So I'll start off with point number 1, not showing up. So this has happened very often. It's very sad that there's a schedule and you don't end up attending the interview, and you don't even inform the company or the interviewer that I'm not going to be coming. You could have fallen sick, maybe there's an emergency in your family or somebody in the hospital, which is understandable, but you at least have to inform the company, because it leaves a very negative impression. Guys, never do that. Always inform the interviewer if you're not able to make it due to some reason. Just not showing up and not informing them is very unprofessional. Please do not do that, alright? Number 2, speaking negatively about either the manager or your team or the company. Like I said, you might have had a toxic boss or a manager in your previous company, or you might not have had very good colleagues, but the part here is you have to learn from your bad experiences. That's what's going to make you stronger. It's not about just having that experience in your mind and brooding over that. We shouldn't be doing that. We should learn from that, and always go ahead and move ahead with a positive note. That's when you're going to be mentally ready, I would say, for accepting the new role. So never badmouth your company, your colleagues, or the company culture, your manager. It's a big no, because the interviewer feels that if you can do that about your previous company, you could do that about them also someday. They're obviously not going to be comfortable with that, and your chances to get through the interview are going to be nil. Number 3, talking too much or talking too little. When an interviewer is asking you a question, it's good to be to the point, but some questions which require a lot of explanation, it's good to give details, especially if it includes numbers, figures, and especially if you're trying to prove your point, it's always good to give them some examples. In that case, you could talk a little more, but don't overdo it, don't overtalk, because there are a lot of candidates waiting and the interview also has limited time. So ensure you prove your point in that limited time that you have, and you could give them details, but don't make it too lengthy. No monologues. Monologues as in you keep talking, lengthy dialogues. I think we should totally avoid that in an interview, right? And talking too little. Suppose somebody is asking you some question, just nodding your head saying, I don't know, or yes, or no, or just being quiet about it. That's going to leave a very negative impression on the interview, guys. So don't do that. It shows that you're a little defensive. It could also be that you're nervous and you're not able to talk, which is understandable, but you have to make an effort, guys. This is an interview. It's like a make or break situation for you and your career. So you have to gather some courage. You have to mentally be very strong. You definitely have to go ahead and do well in the interview. So don't talk too much or don't talk too little. Just keep it minimal. Number 4, not asking enough questions about either the company or the role or the culture. See, when you're going for an interview, you're going to be giving that company a couple of years of your professional experience. You're going to be actually giving yourself to the company. So it's imperative, it's important that you ask questions about the company, the culture, about the inception, anything about the role or the role that you've applied for. You could ask questions about that. Just being quiet and only answering what the interviewer is asking, it's not going to send good signals to the interviewer, guys. You will have to ask questions, because it also shows that you're interested in the interview. It's not that you're just here for the interview for the sake of it. You have to be very involved in an interview. It's not just about getting through the job, like I said earlier. It's also about the interview experience for you and the interviewer, because you never know, if not today, some other day you might cross paths again in the future. So it's always important to leave it on a good note. Be cordial. I think you have to be interactive more than anything. If you're interactive, you ask questions, the interviewer also gets very impressed that you have a lot of questions about the company. It shows that you're really interested, involved, probably committed, in the near future towards the company. Number 5, forgetting your LinkedIn. So for a recruiter, your LinkedIn profile is really important. You can always include it as a header on your resume. It also helps recruiters side by side, they compare your resumes. It helps them get a good understanding of your profile. Not including your LinkedIn profile or the link can be a put off because that's very basic. It's a professional networking site, as you know. Your resume has to have details about your LinkedIn ID. It need not be the header only. You can also send it as a hyperlink, but ensure that it's always there. It looks very professional. It also looks very thoughtful, that you're concerned about yourself, and also the company gets a better picture about you. Number 6, talking about compensation or benefits too early in the interview. As you know, when you go for an interview, it's more about learning about the role. The interviewer tries to gauge whether you're the right fit for the company. They try to understand whether you're the right fit for the role, the company, whether you will suit their culture, whether you're flexible, whether you're a good investment basically for the company. At such a stage, it's really a big blunder to ask about salary and benefits. I'm not saying don't ask, it's extremely important. End of the day, we're going to be working for money, and of course benefits are always like a big plus. But there is another round later if you're shortlisted where salary and benefits are discussed. So I would totally say that you could leave this for later. If you really want to know, you can obviously after the interview ask them that question, but during the interview process, ensure that you don't always talk about salary and what the role pays and stuff like what are the shifts and what are the benefits, what are the holidays. I think you should avoid all of that because it gives wrong signals to the interviewer that you're not really interested in the role. You're more interested about the benefits or the flexibility the company offers. So end of the day, you're here to work. There's a role you're going to be playing. So stick to that, and you could leave that for a little later. If you are shortlisted, you're obviously going to have another round with the HR. That is when you can ask questions about salary, benefits, holidays and all of that. Salary, like I said earlier, this need not be discussed unless an offer is made out to you, and that's when you're going to have an interview with the HR. It's called the HR round. We're going to be discussing compensation, benefits, shifts and your date of joining and all of that. The next point is looking untidy or dressing inappropriately. You're going for an interview, so it's always good to be dressed in something you're very comfortable in. Definitely not casual. It also depends on the company you're applying for. Some startups are really fine with, you're not going in a suit and a tie and all that. Nowadays that culture is really passé, but you could definitely check and you could definitely get a vibe of the culture. You could read about the company. It's always best to go in your formals, but then don't overdo it, and ensure that you have a good night's sleep. Don't look untidy. Don't go with droopy, tired eyes. Even though you might not be unprepared, it looks that you're unprepared for the interview. Sleep well, have a good breakfast, go with a good smile, look fresh for the interview. Number 9, guys, arriving late for the interview. Again, a big put off for the interviewer. In case you're stuck in traffic, in case there's an emergency, you're not able to make it on time, it's always considered courtesy to call or drop an email or send an SMS to the interviewer stating the reason, and also tell them what time you expected. Many people probably message, but they don't really say when they expect it. The interview does not have all day to wait for you, and they'll probably reschedule your interview. In case you're running late, inform the interview, inform the company. It looks professional. All of us have reasons, but that is why it's always better to leave a little early for the interview. I'm not saying go and wait 2 hours before. At least if you're there 15-20 minutes before the interview, it looks very good. It's professional, and also mentally you have time to think, you have time to focus on the interview. Number 10, answering your phone during an interview or fidgeting with your phone. You've come for an interview, it's a very serious affair, right? The company is also investing a lot of time to ensure that they get the right candidate. You're investing a lot of time and energy to come for the interview, probably coming from a very far off place just to attend the interview. You don't want to go back sad, and you don't want to leave a bad impression more than anything. Ensure you don't answer your phone, keep it on silent mode. And some people, I have interviewed people where they kind of reply, they're always on WhatsApp, and those tones keep coming in the middle. Ensure that your WhatsApp notification or any other notification is off. We don't want those sounds coming during the interview. It looks very bad, and it obviously distracts the interviewer, and the focus is definitely not on you after that. So ensure you don't do that. Please don't fidget with your phone, or don't even look at your phone. If you ask me, I think you should just put it away. The next point, on number 11, not doing enough research about the company, because end of the day, you really want to know where you're going to make your career. You want to know what you're getting into, because obviously you're apprehensive. You don't know whether this company, I know you probably would have read a little bit about the company, but you don't really know what you're getting into. So it's always good to do your homework. It's good to do your research. Go read about the company, talk to a couple of friends if they happen to know somebody in that company. Look up on social networking platforms a little bit about the company. You could also look at LinkedIn. You could see probably if they're in the news, if they're a startup, you should always also look at if they are well funded, because you don't want to join a startup and tomorrow not have a job, because many startups have very good strategies, but then they're not able to last, they're not able to sustain. Ensure that you're not in a state of flux where you're really confused and you're really regretting your decision of joining just after you have joined. I think many people go through that. You accept an offer in a hurry and later you're like, oh god, why did I join this company? You end up listening to a lot of negative stuff about the company. Also, it's good for the interviewer to know that you know a little bit about the company. It really helps, and it's like a plus. Number 12, beating around the bush and not answering to the question. I think a lot of interviewers go through this. I have also personally gone through this when I've interviewed people. When an interviewer is asking you a question, ensure that you stick to the answer. Like I said, you can explain. If it's asking you A plus B, don't start talking about Z, H and X. Just be to the point and explain. If you want to explain, always give examples. It's very good. It helps the interviewer understand better. But please don't beat around the bush and not answer the question at all. That's like a big put off. So ensure that you stick to what the interviewer wants to know. Number 13, exhibiting poor body language. Don't fidget with your hair, or don't cross your arms, looks very defensive. Don't slouch. Don't put your arms behind your back. I think I had mentioned that in my last reel. In case you haven't watched it, please go and watch my last reel. So it was about body language mistakes. So ensure that your body language is professional, it's pleasing. Don't overdo anything. Ensure that you smile. I'm not saying just keep smiling throughout the interview. You look like a fool. Don't do that. But yeah, ensure that during the interview, in the course of the conversation with the interviewer, and if you find something funny, you could obviously laugh. It's totally fine. A little humor is fine, but don't overdo it. Number 14, not maintaining a pleasing tone throughout the interview. This is very important. The tone, the way you say things is very important. Sometimes because of the nature of your tone, what you probably are trying to say is not kind of received in that fashion. You should sound professional, you should sound pleasing, and don't sound very dull or tired. It makes you look very disinterested in the entire interview. Don't sound defensive. Don't start, arguing or trying to prove a point during a conversation. Be pleasing, be thoughtful. Try to be a little sweet throughout the interview. It's always good to be nice. For example, yesterday I went for a movie and it was good, and later I met a couple of my friends and versus. Yesterday I went to watch RRR because I love Ramcharan. I think he was awesome in the movie. I'm also a big Rajamouli fan, and later I just caught up with my friends for some quick dinner, and I went back home early because I had this interview to attend. And by the way, I recommend the restaurant I went to. It's called XYZ. It is awesome. You must also try it. Number 15, getting too personal or trying to be over friendly with the interviewer. Remember that the interviewer is not your friend. It's a company the interviewer is representing. He has a very serious job to do. He's investing his time and effort to ensure that he gets the right person for the role that you have applied for. Likewise for you, you're also very serious about the role, which is why you've come all the way, you've applied for the role. I mean, you could make it a little friendly like I said earlier, but don't get over friendly with the interviewer. He's not your friend. Don't start asking what are your hobbies, where do you stay. You could probably, if you want to know a little bit about the company, I'll tell you how you could actually ask them. You could just ask questions like how long you've been with the company instead, and how are the people to work with out here. How's the management? What are the growth opportunities? These are the questions you could ask, which are professional. It also shows that you're interested in the interview, as opposed to you like watching movies. What are your hobbies? Even I like doing that, and I have a friend who told me XYZ. So don't do all of that. Keep it short and keep it sweet. Number 16, the final point, no thank you or follow-up note for the interview. The objective of the interview is to get through the interview. You have to put in your best effort and hopefully you might get the job. But in case you do not get the job, that is also fine. It's not the end of the world. You can try harder, and there are a lot of other interviews which you can attend in other companies. But ensure that after the interview, either you could do it from your phone or you could just go home a little later. Always leave a thank you note. Always drop an email or a message thanking the interviewer for their time, and also subtly mention that you look forward to hearing from them. So tell them that it was a great experience interviewing with them and the company. It was really good to know about the company and their future plans, and it would be great if you could probably add value to them in some way if selected. So it's always good to have that relationship. Build a rapport, very, very important. Networking is very important, will get you places, guys. It's not just about clearing the interview. As I said, it's always good to be on a good note, and also be in touch with the company in case you might be looking out for a job a few months later down the lane. You might not be happy with the current job, and if you're still in touch with recruiters or certain people in the company, it always helps. Always helps spread the word. You could probably also add them to your LinkedIn network. Don't stalk them. That's not what you need to do. Don't follow them on social media, stalk them. But then yeah, if you feel that it was a good experience you had, if you feel something positive, you can ask them that, could I please have your LinkedIn ID if you don't mind? You could ask questions like that, and if they're okay, you could do that. Because not many like sharing their LinkedIn profile or even the social media handles, right? So otherwise it's always just better to stick to the basic rule. Go back, leave a thank you note, and it's going to be really good for you and the company. When you're leaving a thank you note, guys, leave it at that. Don't keep mailing them if they don't get back to you in a day or two. That's like stalking, and it also shows that you're very desperate. So everybody knows you've given your best shot, but looking desperate is not going to get you places. Interviewers hate that. It's also not good for your self-respect, getting desperate for something. You might need the job very badly, and you might have a lot of issues, and you would probably want to start working. You have to support your family financially, which is understandable. But do not stalk recruiters or people in that company, and do not follow them. Do not look desperate. You can look interested but not desperate. So I hope you like this this video, guys. This is totally out of my experience, but I think a lot of you might relate with this. Ensure that you don't make these mistakes. Guys, I hope you found the video informative, and if you liked it, please like the video, share, and do subscribe to my channel. It'll motivate me a lot. I'll make more such videos so that it motivates you.